Well, it certainly hasn't been all rainbows and butterflies for the Mountaineers all season long. The loss that they're coming off of on Wednesday night, easily the most disappointing loss of the season when you consider what's at stake as we inch closer towards Selection Sunday. And man, things are continuing to... from that game, you were at the highest point against Utah. You were feeling like, all right, we're on the bubble. And then you go and lose to a 1-11 Utah team. Not trying to sit here and make you relive that too much. But now it's like, okay, what do we do from here? Well, Mountaineers got a game against TCU on Saturday. TCU's firmly on the bubble. West Virginia's just trying to stay somewhat alive at this point. We're going to preview the action for you here on Mountaineer Moment, episode 151. This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. My name's Troy, and this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. And all throughout the basketball season, we give you a preview and a recap of every single Mountaineer basketball game and then some. And so this is a preview between West Virginia and TCU coming up on Saturday at 5 o'clock. That game is set to be on Peacock and NBC Sports Network at 5 o'clock. From Dallas-Fort Worth, TCU, West Virginia going on the road, that funky-looking court they're going to play on. And this won't be, like I said, we do it here at Mountaineer Moment we preview every game. And this is a preview. It's just not going to be a preview in the most traditional sense of what we've done all season long, or for the most part, throughout the season with numbers and players to know and stats to know. We always kind of break it down that way. There'll be glimpses of that throughout, but this episode will be done just a little bit differently as we preview West Virginia and TCU, and a massive game, massively important game for both teams. And we said in the opening, man, West Virginia's coming off their worst loss of the season. Most detrimental, most disappointing, fill in the blank for a negative adjective, and that's what it was. However, it's not that this game against TCU means nothing now. It still means something, but you just have a lot more work to do and not a whole lot of time to do it. Some would say you got to be perfect to end the regular season and then see what happens in the conference tournament. I don't know. But West Virginia and TCU Saturday. And again, Mountaineer Moment, episode 151. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button for us. And whatever platform you're on, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, I would love for you to join this growing Mountaineer Moment community. And the first place we're going to start, if you're watching along on YouTube, you can see it on that outline off to the side. First thing we're going to talk is about the NCAA tournament bubble and some bubble talk here. So it's Saturday, February 21st, and March Madness tips off in a month. Like we're here, and whatever bracketologist you follow, Bracket Matrix, Joe Lenardi, Jerry Palm, like whoever you keep up with, man, they're dropping brackets all the time, predicting what this field's going to look like in a month based on where things stand right now. And West Virginia, not to harp on it so much, but heading into Wednesday's game, after you come off a Saturday comeback victory against UCF, you head into Wednesday and you're squarely on the bubble. You were sitting at 16-9 and 7-5 in conference play, hosting Utah on Wednesday night, 8:30, and you drop it, you lose it. And if just, again, bubble talk, and I said, in that recap episode of Utah, I might be sitting here saying, oh, he said he wasn't going to talk about the NCAA tournament. Well, I just hear what I'm saying here throughout this episode. I'm not sitting here saying, we're going to break it down. West Virginia needs to get 5 wins and then win 2 in the conference tournament, and then, they're going to be in. I'm not going to break it down to that effect. But just as you look at other bracket projections, even after West Virginia loses that game, that's one of the reasons I'm sitting here talking about the bubble as it relates to West Virginia. is because they're still in play on those sheets that you look at for a lot of them. They, had inserted themselves into that conversation after UCF, and, according to some, like ESPN's Joe Lunardi, they didn't fall so far out of the picture. They might have fallen a couple spots with that loss to Utah, but the way it felt on Wednesday night watching that game and the way the announcers were talking, man, it felt like it was, the world was coming to an end, or their season was coming to an end with that loss. And yeah, absolutely. In a few weeks, when West Virginia doesn't hear their name called, you could certainly come back and point to that one as, well, there's the reason they lost that one. Had they won that one, they would have been in. We seriously could very well be saying that here in just a few weeks. Now, with that said, as we talk about the Big 12 as a whole, right? I mean, the Big 12 is unbelievable. Up top, Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas, Texas Tech, obviously losing JT Toppin is just a killer. BYU, Saunders is out. That's a massive injury for them too. BYU, UCF, BYU and UCF and West Virginia are all 7-6 in conference play. BYU and UCF, though, they only have 7 losses apiece, where West Virginia's got, again, 10 with 16-10 record. So, and a lot of it, as we talk about the bubble, like how many Big 12 teams are going to get in, right? If we just rattle off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we count BYU and UCF as in right now, that's 7. And then you got a West Virginia, a TCU, and that's kind of it, And so I think West Virginia has benefited a little bit just as far as the Big 12 is concerned. And we don't, obviously we can keep up a little bit with what else is going on elsewhere with other teams that are considered to be on the bubble right now. But, as far as the Big 12 is concerned, we got a pretty good grasp on that. Just a couple weeks ago, teams that were considered were Baylor and Oklahoma State, who is 16-10, but they're 4-9 in the Big 12, and they still got Houston on their schedule. West Virginia obviously coming up in a few days. They play them. West Virginia plays them on the road. Colorado on Saturday. This first game before they play West Virginia. So, and it seems to me like they've fallen a little bit off of the picture. Obviously, with their losing 4 in a row, because they were 16-6, and they've since lost to Arizona, Arizona State, TCU, and Kansas. Couple top 10 teams, right? Obviously in that slate that they've had, and they have not fared well, and so they have drifted further and further away from the bubble. And then again, Baylor has played themselves out of this thing. And if you really just sit down and think about it, if I'm not saying Oklahoma State can't go on a run here and even win 5 straight and get to 500 in conference play and get to 21 wins, right? They get to 21 wins, they'll probably be in. But if you look at those next 2 teams in the Big 12 standings, and even in just how it measures up with what bracketologists are saying, because the next 2 teams in the Big 12 standings are also the next 2 teams in the Big 12 from the Big 12 that could potentially get in to the dance, and it's TCU and West Virginia. We've had, TCU played Oklahoma State last Saturday, and they won that one 95-92 in overtime. That was as bubble game as a bubble game gets. So Saturday, just a week ago, TCU was in one of these games. And now, fast forward to Saturday the 21st, West Virginia on the road against TCU. This is we keep calling things must-win games, but I mean, the writing's on the wall here for just how important this game is. Because if you just simplify it to the simple fact that, okay, let's say right here, right now, the Big 12 is not getting 9 teams in the tournament. We already know 7 of them. If they're going to get 8, at this moment in time, it looks like it's TCU or West Virginia. At this moment in time right now, it looks like it's TCU. How do you make that West Virginia? Well, West Virginia goes and beats TCU, right? That could reinsert yourself into that conversation. So this game it's massive, and it's amazing to me how we're still sitting here game after game after game, and West Virginia, with squandered opportunities, whether against a top 25 team or against a bottom of the Big 12 team where you lose at home, and yet we're still sitting here saying there's an opportunity in front of them. But like if you don't go get this one, those opportunities, that this thing may be for real shut if it's not already. But you go beat TCU, not to say that you jump them automatically, but if things continue to shake out, you win a few games, TCU wins a few games, you both make equal noise in the Big 12 tournament, and it comes down Selection Sunday, they're like, all right, we got 7 Big 12 teams, we're going to put an 8th in, West Virginia and TCU. Well, what was the head-to-head? Well, West Virginia beat TCU. Oh, where was that game? It was on TCU's home floor. Right? I mean, could it come down to something like that? I think it could. And so this game you got to have, and your back's against the wall, and you're playing, a tough team on the road, difficult place to win. West Virginia seems to never fare well there, to me, at least in recent memory. And so it's going to be hard. But you have put yourself in this situation. Point blank period. You have put yourself in this situation. And so with 5 games remaining, you are 16-10. You are 7-6 in conference play. And you got a date with the TCU Horned Frogs, who right now on every projection are ahead of you when it comes to getting in the field. Okay, and so we'll stop there with the bubble talk for now. But I mean, just that last simple sentence: TCU, West Virginia. TCU's ahead of West Virginia in the bubble conversation, but by how much? It's not a whole lot, right? Because a lot of people have them on the outside looking in just as they do West Virginia. Go beat them on their home floor, change that narrative a little bit. Maybe you get in ahead of them. If someone else in the Big 12 gets in, maybe it's you. But you got to start on Saturday night with a win against TCU on their floor. Okay? So TCU specifically, as we break them down just a little bit, again, we won't go in as great a detail as we often do here on Mountaineer Moment, but they're a team that's just so interesting with what they've done this season, right? They lost that season opener way back when to New Orleans, 78-74. They lost a close game to Michigan, who's one of the top teams in the country. They beat Florida in the non-conference. They beat Wisconsin. They lost to Notre Dame. And then to start conference play, they beat Baylor. And then they went cold. Right, and they had a tough slate. They lost to Kansas, lost to Arizona, lost to BYU, and by the way, on the road in Utah, lost to the Utes. So the Utes' 2 wins in conference play this season have come against TCU and West Virginia, below both of those in close contests. So they started conference play just 1-4, but again have since bounced back to a point right now where they are 6-7 in conference play. So again, West Virginia 7-6, you can get to 8-6, you can send them to 6-8. That makes a difference in things as well. They knocked off Oklahoma State and Baylor, lost to Houston by 9, lost to Colorado by a lot, by 26 points to Colorado. Since then, they've won 3 out of 4. Wins over K-State, win against Iowa State at home. I remember watching that one. That was a big one, 62-55 for them. Beat Oklahoma State and then lost to UCF on the road most recently after UCF fell to West Virginia. So that's where TCU is at this exact moment, as they're 16-10 and 6-7 in conference play. Some of the names, right? They have a pretty balanced attack, like many of the teams in the Big 12 do. David Punch, Xavier Edmonds, Jaden Pierre, Micah Robinson, all in double figures for this team. David Punch leads the team in points, rebounds, and blocks. 14 points, 6.7 boards, over 2 blocks per game. Brock Harding, really good. He's their 5th leading scorer, but he's their leading assist man and steal man, 5.7 assists and over 1.5 steals per game. He's shooting just 28% from 3. They're not the best shooting team in the Big 12. I will pull up one number for you here, just because I'm interested in seeing where they're at as they stack up with other teams in the Big 12. So. They're right down there with West Virginia as far as 3-point percentage. The bottom 3 teams in 3-point percentage are West Virginia, TCU, and Cincinnati, who are all within just a couple tenths at the 33% mark there. And they shoot toward the bottom half of the Big 12, just 22 attempts per game. Remember, we were coming against a team in who was it? Well, Cincinnati's the one outlier there because they shoot a lot of threes. If you remember, we played them twice. And was it Cincinnati? Yeah, they've since trended now where Cincinnati's third in the Big 12 in three-point attempts per game, but they're last in the Big 12 in make. So that's not the story with TCU. They don't make a lot of them, but they don't shoot a whole lot of them either. And again, they're coming off a game. I'm just going to pull out the box score that they had against UCF on the road because West Virginia just did play that as well. And TCU lost by 11. They were down big, just like West Virginia was, but UCF was able to prevail in that one. TCU struggled from three. If that sounds familiar, West Virginia fans, well, that's because that's what West Virginia does too. TCU was 4 for 21 from three. David Punch and Edmonds, Xavier Edmonds going 0 for 5 from three. Jaden Pierre and Brock Harding 0 for 3 apiece as well. So just a struggle shooting the basketball for TCU. Meanwhile, UCF knocked down 8 of their 20. And then the free throw line, 18 for 20 for UCF, 17 of 27 for TCU. And so there's your difference, three-point line and the free throw line. And they lost that game by 11 points. And UCF, I won't say they've punched their ticket. Yeah, they're getting really, really close. And that was a big win for them to bounce back after West Virginia knocked them off. So again, one of the things, before we get into keys to victory for West Virginia, I think one of the sort of interesting points about this TCU team is how up and down they've been all season. Like we've seen that. We knew that from the get-go when they lost to New Orleans. They're like, what in the world just happened? And then they have a close game against Michigan, and then next thing you know, they knock off the defending champion. And so it's kind of just interesting. We don't know what TCU team we're going to get. And if it's a team that knocked off Iowa State, then we're in trouble, right? Let's just call it how it is. But if it's a team that got blown out by Colorado, then I like our chances. So what TCU team are we going to get? And they've had a few stretches, as I mentioned. They lost 4 straight at one point early on in Big 12 play. Then won 2, then lost 2, then won 3. And so hopefully they can start another trend of losses, right? And they don't have the toughest schedule remaining in the Big 12. They got West Virginia, they got Arizona State, K-State, Texas Tech, and Cincinnati, right? How many of those are they going to get? I don't know. But what I do know is West Virginia needs this one. And so we'll break into some keys to victory for West Virginia here and then get a little more big picture stuff and we'll get out of here. But number one key to victory is probably something you see coming, but it's something that you just have to say with this West Virginia team. And these slow starts that they've been having, and against Utah, it wasn't just a slow start. It was an abysmal start offensively and defensively. Utah couldn't miss. You couldn't make. Boom, you're down 18-3. And I don't care who you're playing in this Big 12 conference. If you're down 18-3 to Utah or to Houston or to Arizona, whoever it is, that's a tough hole to come out of. And I don't care what floor you're playing on, neutral, home, or away. That's really tough. And West Virginia, to their credit, not too much credit, but to their credit, they scrapped and clawed their way back into that game and almost came back, all the way back, but they didn't, right? They lost that game by 5, got as close as, I think, 2. And so, and that game against Utah for West Virginia, it came on the heels of a game where you just knocked off UCF in a 14-point second-half comeback with 10, 12 minutes to play. You lost to Texas Tech where you couldn't quite get over the hump, but against Cincinnati on the road the game before that, you were down 14 in the second half. And you came back to win. Who did I say? Against Cincinnati. Cincinnati and UCF, you've come back from 14 down in the second halves. Their last 2 road games, by the way. I don't want to see that again. Right? I don't want to count on a furious, ferocious, whatever second half comeback where you sneak out of the opposing gym and say, as Brad House says on 3 Guys, like, thanks for having us. I don't really want to. I mean, I'll take a win as a win as a win. But if Wednesday night's game against Utah taught us anything, it's that getting down and turning it on turning up the pressure, making shots, getting focused, locking in on defense, sometimes you might just run out of time, regardless of how well you play in a half, regardless of how good you look, regardless of how much effort you put in after you get down. Sometimes you're just going to run out of time. I said it after that game against Utah. If there's 5 more minutes, if there's 8 more minutes in that game, West Virginia probably wins the game. I mean, they really did turn it up and fought back, but they ran out of time. You don't have to worry about running out of time if you start on the right side of things. So West Virginia, simply put, I mean, are we really wanting to sit here and bank on a double-digit second-half comeback? I really don't want to do that. Get off to a better start somehow, some way. And they haven't done it much lately, right? There's not much reason for us to be optimistic and say, yeah, they'll figure it out. They're going to get it right. They're going to come off to a great start. Get off to a 20-7 start on the opposing team's floor. I mean, there's not much saying that we're going to do that. Nothing in the recent history indicates that West Virginia is capable of doing that. But if you want to win this game, I don't think you can get down. I just don't. So that's number one. Whatever that looks like, man, get off to a better start. Get off to a better start. Secondly, there's been times this season where West Virginia has just, given up some monster halves. We met a lot of that in the non-conference, like 40. We've said it time and time again here, 40-plus point second halves to teams that just, were detrimental. And TCU, as we mentioned, they got a balanced scoring attack. You have to find a way to limit them. You have to find a way to limit them. You have to find a way to avoid these explosive runs. And obviously this point connects to the first one too with, just not getting down big early. But not all of that's offensive. Offense gets off to slow start after slow start after slow start. Well, defense got off to a really bad start against Utah, let's be honest. Got to fix that. And then, it's so hard oftentimes when I'm giving you keys to victory here to, not sound redundant almost. Because a lot of times I'll mention Harlan Obioha and I need to see something from him, or Belo, or the scorers, the guys that can shoot, Trayson Eaglestaff, Honor Huff, and so I don't want to single out a specific player here. You need to have continuity offensively and have a balanced attack, right? West Virginia's win against UCF. I'm just thinking of this now. West Virginia's win against UCF, 74-67, second half comeback that was brilliant. There were a few guys that had ownership of the game at different moments of the game. Right, Chance Moore kept us afloat in the first half. He had 8 or 10 of his 12 points in the first half. Kept you there. One of the things that's amazing about that UCF comeback is you were only down 1 at half. Then you got down in a hurry, and then you bounced back in a hurry. But there were minutes there that were dominated by Chance Moore in the first. There were minutes that were dominated by Belo. There was a large chunk dominated by Jasper Floyd, and then Honor Huff doing his thing, making some shots, getting to the free throw line too, and making them count. So there were segments of this game that you could say, you know what, Jasper did his thing in that segment and kept us in it, or got us back in it. Chance Moore kept us afloat. Belo was steady. And so I'm not going to sit here and say that, well, we need Honor Huff to go out there and drop 30 on 7 threes, or Trayson Eaglestaff to make 5 threes, or Belo to have a double-double, or Harlan Obioha to be near a double-double, like we've said oftentimes before. This team's better when he's good. And he did some good things defensively in that UCF game, but he still did goose egg offensively, points-wise. And then Jasper Floyd knocked down 3 out of 5 threes. Who saw that coming? And so it's almost like you need some sort of outlier kind of performance. You need a balanced attack, but you need something that you don't typically see to happen that's going to, carry you through this one, right? Jasper Floyd, that wasn't on our bingo card for him to knock down 3 out of 5 from beyond the arc. And he was hesitant to shoot them late against Utah. Many people had a problem with that, and I'm one of them. Shoot the ball, man. Shoot the ball. But man, what's it going to be against TCU? If we're gonna come out of this game winning it, feeling a little bit better about ourselves and about the future of this team or about the immediate future of this team, man, what are we going to chalk it up to? And against UCF, it was several different segments of the game that were dominated by a certain player, and Jasper Floyd stepping up on both ends of the floor, knocking down shots and guarding the opposing team's best player and making life difficult for him. You know, he had 17. When's the last time Jasper Floyd had 17 before that? Let me tell you. I don't think he did, right? I remember saying that. It was his second highest scoring performance of the season. He had 14 a couple times. You know, he had only been, as a real quick look, only been in double digits twice before that in Big 12 play. And he needed every bit of it, and he came through. So who's going to come through? Who's going to make a play? Who's going to do something that they haven't normally done? Because that's what it's going to take, right? If we have a normal-looking offense out here against TCU, we're going to score 52 points. And we're just going to hope that we hold them to under that, but we probably won't. Something has to be abnormal in a good way. Who's it going to be? All right, so as we relate to the big picture and we tie a bow on this one, man, again, there's 5 games left in the regular season. You've done yourself a whole lot of nothing as far as favors for yourself with recent losses to Texas Tech, where that was an opportunity to get a signature win, and then you lose to Utah in an embarrassing way on your home floor. You're running out of time. And yet, you know, again, with Oklahoma State drifting a little bit now, you know, you still got BYU at home, you got K-State, you got UCF again at home. But, like, I mean, this is as a bubble game gets. They're a little bit ahead of you. You have a chance to knock them off on their home floor, and you're running out of time to collect wins where you can say you did that to a team that's might be in the tournament field. Take care of business, man. This is huge. Every game is huge down the stretch, and you just dropped one that was huge. Let's not run from that. But now you got to get back. You're running out of time. You are running out of time, right? If this thing goes, you know, you go 1-4 down the stretch, you go 2-3 down the stretch, we're going to be sitting here in a couple weeks saying West Virginia's got to win the Big 12 tournament to get in the TANs. And I don't like my chances to do that. So start now, get right, collect a win, and move on. You're running out of time, but the opportunities are still there right now. Capitalize. And that's it. Episode 151, Mountaineer Moment. Be sure to join us post-game as we react and analyze West Virginia and TCU. We'll have that episode shortly after the game concludes. So come on back to Mountaineer Moment and check that out. We'll see you then. Until next time, let's go Mountaineers.